All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. Getting a little bit of a late start today. I do apologize, folks. It was a little tough for me sometimes to get going in the morning, not because I am getting older, yes, but that's not the issue. The issue is actually I haven't been sleeping as well because as I'm getting older, I'm not sure what that is. I think, well, I've been sleeping well. Let me be honest with you. I'm digressing right now. Yeah, I'm sleeping fine, but I've been so tired. I think, could I have the dreaded long COVID? I think that's possible. And there's really nothing you can do if you have it. As I understand it, there's really no treatment options. You just live your life as best you can and hope it doesn't debilitate you too much. But yeah, I've been tired a lot and I have been sleeping. It hasn't really been a problem. I do wake up in the middle of the night, but I read or what have you, and then I'm able to go back to sleep. So I don't really want to complain or sing the blues, but I wonder if the fatigue I have is perhaps that issue, that long COVID, and I don't know that there's anything anyone can do about it. If you want to join me today, it's 240-242-5646 always. And yeah, a little bit of a difficulty starting this morning, and the reason, not because I was fatigued, the reason I'm depressed. I'll be real frank with you. And what is it I'm depressed about? Yeah, current events. I talked about this yesterday with Chuck, I think a little bit. By the way, do urge you, if you haven't checked out yesterday's video with Chuck Pinocchio, friend of the show, great progressive activist, guy who his entire life has been dedicated trying to make America a little bit better. So you don't want to miss it. He is from calling in from just outside Chicago there to present kind of an alternative to where the Democratic Party is at its convention, which I'm pretty sure wraps up today. Haven't focused so well. Yesterday we talked about it. Tuesday was with Andrew Dicos. He is a film historian, a film scholar, and had I think, for me anyway, really enjoyable and informative conversation about one of the great French film directors of the mid-20th century and how his work was informed by his work as a resistance leader in France during World War II and his experiences as a Jew observing the Holocaust as it happened in France. So I thought that was an interesting conversation, especially because the work of Jean-Pierre Melville does, in fact, I believe, provide us with some guidance or at least some help in understanding the world today and the current Holocaust, which I don't think is too strong a term, not at all, to describe what is happening in Gaza with our full support, tragically, the full backing of the U.S. government. Why am I depressed? Well, that's why, but also a feeling I think many of us have. There's just really no there's no ally out there, right? There's no one that we can look to. I know some people think the Democratic Party, some of the Democratic leaders are on your side or on our side. I'm just not getting that. I'm sorry, folks. I'm just not getting that. This is someone, we'll just show real quick. This was my thumbnail for today's program. And this is, an image here of AOC, somebody that I was really excited to support. I was 2016, I'm pretty sure. I was really, feeling the AOC burn. I'm going to have to check and make sure because she could have been 2018, but I'm pretty sure. Maybe it was 2018 where she camped out at Pelosi's office. And, it was pretty exciting. Hey, we've got somebody who's a real progressive, challenges a Democratic establishment leader, Crowley, in the House. From the left, is able to defeat Pelosi, defeat Steny Hoyer, and somebody who was talking frankly about what it's like to be working class. She was a bartender, I believe, but also had a master's in economics. And it was, refreshing. Wow. She camped out in front of Pelosi's office and said, hey, we need a climate deal. And to see how she has been. Now, some might say that she was always in it for herself. She was a narcissist she is a narcissist. Some might say that I prefer to believe that perhaps like President Obama, she was corrupted by the establishment. You know, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. At least that's what, I don't know who said it, Montesquieu, maybe? Was that right? I'll have to look that one up. And she got a little taste of power. Now, I would say she doesn't have much power. She only has power to promote the corporate, democratic, elitist line. As long as she toes that line, she'll get speaking engagement. She'll be able to be a face of the Democratic Party. She's probably thinking to herself, I'll run for president one day, and then I'll be able to really do what I want. I won't be beholden. I won't have to listen or take direction from Hakeem Jeffries, the congressman member from Wall Street and AIPAC. I'll be able to go out on my own. I won't have to, placate wealthy Zionist, influential Zionist donors as I did when I had this ridiculous town hall with the Holocaust Museum president and others, without even acknowledging, who would refuse to even acknowledge the cruelty, the indignities that Israel is visiting upon Palestinians. So, I'm sure she's saying that to herself. But I will tell you now, AOC, you're never going. By the way, Lord Acton, power corrupts an absolute. Lord Acton, who the hell was that? Who knows? Who knew that? I sure did. She thinks she has some power. She really hasn't got influence over the party's direction. It just hasn't happened. We haven't seen anything that AOC has promoted that goes against what corporate elites want happen. It just hasn't happened. And now she's lending, or she's giving her considerable influence to a terrible cause. And I think this is why there's so much hopelessness. I think this is why there's so many people. We're so depressed. We're so sad. We're like, we don't have any allies. We don't have anyone with power. We don't have anyone with influence. We don't have anyone with some power, with some even access, speaking truth to power. And I think that's what's so disheartening. So Gaza death toll near, this is the latest from Anadolu Ajansi, that's the Turkish news service. Gaza death toll nears 40,300 as 42 more Palestinians killed. 42 more just in the past 24 hours. I think yesterday was 50, I believe. I can't keep it straight. I'm not going to stop centering the victims of the American war machine and its closest ally, Israel. I'm not going to stop doing it. I know some people don't want it, are sick of it. This is the most important story there is. That nothing is as critically important. We were talking about this with Chuck, and has there been another humanitarian crisis as serious as what Israel is doing to Gaza? Not in this millennium. And he brought up Yemen, and maybe there are more. I don't know the numbers, but that's over. That is not listed. And I didn't do more research, so correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that the death toll, the per capita eradication of Palestinians is greater in Gaza than we've seen in the 21st century. And, and that includes everything, even horrors, massacres that the U.S. is not behind, that the U.S. is not responsible for, or in large part responsible for. So I don't know how we can avoid this, ignore this, especially in a presidential election year when we have a choice. We can choose not to vote for a candidate who is indifferent to, or frankly supportive of, the genocide. Now, I ask the question, well, what can we do, right? Because if you're depressed, if you're disheartened, you're despondent, you feel like there's nothing I can do, right? That's a recipe, right, for misery, for unhappiness. I see something, I read about something, I learn of something that is awful. And I want to try to stop it, and I can't. I don't know what to do. Now, of course, the people who are really the victims, they're not me. I mean, I'm depressed about it. I don't like seeing it. I don't like hearing about it. I don't like knowing that my co-religionists are primarily responsible for it. I don't like to know that my government is backing it. I don't like to know that the party that I've generally voted for, almost invariably, I should say, for 43 years now, is fully on board the genocide. I don't like any of that. But I'm not the one being killed, so it's not the same for me, obviously. But you wonder, well, what can you do? What can I do? I think that's the only way to sort of stay sane, is to think, well, there's something, anything I can do. And I'm not real optimistic. I don't know what there is. You know, you're not seeing any consciousness in the Democratic Party. You're not seeing consciousness among people in power. And apparently, at least something that I saw posted in Halitics. By the way, I love the fact that the Halitics group on Facebook is growing. I'm really happy about that. I love seeing more posts. I love seeing more members. That's awesome. Let's get up to 200 members if we can. And also, please, if you haven't yet, please click like, click subscribe, and join me online and call me if you can when I'm live. I'd love to talk to you. Would say, yeah, consistently at noon Eastern time. Actually, today started at 12:22:23. Said I would be at 12:20. Was a little bit late there. Yeah, I'm depressed. It was hard for me to get moving. And I'm sure many of you feel the same way. Hard for me to get moving this morning and go wade through the stories, watch the videos, clip them for today. You know, I was like, man, I don't want to do this. I started thinking maybe I'll install Windows 11 on my laptop, which is, by the way, 13 years old. I got a 13-year-old laptop. Works great. But it won't allow Windows 11, or Windows 11 is restricted on it or some nonsense. But I think I'm going to work around it. I have to, because my wife's laptop is also 13 years old, and Windows 11 is going to stop being supported, or Windows 10 will no longer be supported. So we need to move up to Windows 11. I actually use Linux, so I don't really care on that. I just use Linux. I only use Windows for this program because of the software. The broadcast software requires, let me say it this way, there's far more capability, features, the features that I require to do what I want to do on this program require me to use Windows 11. So I do. But on my laptop, I don't need that, so I don't use it except every period. But I wanted to test to see if I could get Windows 11 installed on it, even though supposedly the hardware doesn't support it. I'll be able to do it. And I was thinking about doing that, distractions takes up longer than you think. And I knew this was going to be, I was going to be cutting it close, but I just didn't want to deal, with what I just showed you, the 40, what was it? Let's see if we can get that up. And it may get cut off. I apologize. 42 more Palestinians. Didn't want to have to deal with that. There's your not another bomb group. Now, they're doing something. You feel good in the moment, but if you're not making difference, you start to, you're going through the motions. I'm going to go down to DC. Well, I say down because I'm north of DC, so south is kind of down right on a map. This afternoon, you can join me if you're in the area. Love to see you. Come over and say hello. You know what I look like, obviously, because you can see me right now. If anyone watching now is at George Washington University, Monroe Park at 6 p.m., I am planning to be there. This is the petition, though. You can click on the link in the show description to sign that petition, which I did. And then if you want to see me, here we go. This afternoon, 6 p.m. should be very, very nice. Beautiful afternoon right now in the DMV district, Maryland, Virginia. And I'll be over there at James Monroe Park, just north of George Washington University campus. 21st Street, Northwest D.C., between K and I think I Streets. I think that's where that is. Maybe actually even south of I. It's a real nice little area too. So if you haven't been down, there's kind of a little hidden gem of a neighborhood in D.C. So I hope to see you. Maybe you'll be there 6 p.m. And we're, telling the George Washington University administration, hey, you got to divest. You can't support Israel. Will they listen? I don't know. That event, by the way, organized by Jewish Voice for Peace, or one of the organizers, not the only one. I don't want to ignore the other organizers, but I learned about the event. Let me put it that way, from JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace, DC Metro. Maybe you feel you can, things can change. Maybe they will. Here's, AOC is getting a lot of super well-deserved criticism for her statement. Was it last night? I'm not sure. This came out. It may have been earlier. I know I saw this video from Kalinsky. I'm not sure if it was yesterday. I watched the video today. I saw it posted yesterday, but I think he posted it after she spoke yesterday. So I think everything I've seen, all the criticism of AOC has come out. I saw Glenn Greenwald, actually. I didn't watch it, but Glenn Greenwald, who I really like, really respect, pretty much agree with him 95% of the time, was harshly critical of AOC. And I decided I wasn't going to go with Greenwald's commentary because, hey, I agree with Greenwald. He's going to say what I'm going to say. I want to get a voice that's more establishment, more supportive, shall we say, of the elites. Why isn't my, there you go. There's my subscribe. There's the AOC. Sorry, I had to do the transition first. Instead, I did the restart media. There it is. Subscribe, click like. You see the AOC, you see the Halitics oval at the top there, by the way. So I thought, well, Kalinsky's been covering the convention breathlessly. He was all excited because apparently, and I didn't watch it. I really don't care. Obama apparently may have made a dick joke about Trump and not being real well endowed. Oh, yuck, yuck, yuck. Ha, ha, ha. To me, that stuff is embarrassing. To me, that stuff kind of makes you look small, right? It's like you're descending to the level that you correctly attribute to Trump, to where he is. So I don't, I'm a policy guy. I care about policy. I saw this cover and I was like, wow, Kalinsky's loving up AOC, telling us how great she is. Isn't she wonderful? Which I was, all prepared to go after Kalinsky, who allegedly, supposedly endorsed Jill Stein, which he never did, but he sort of kind of did a video that kind of was favorable towards her. But that was as far as it went. He never endorsed her. He's been all over Kamala. So I was like, great. Kalinsky's going to be, slobbering over AOC, and I can attack him and AOC. The fact is, Kalinsky was pretty fair in his criticism of AOC. So I think that makes it even more powerful. This is supposed to be our progressive champion, right? This is supposed to be somebody who went to Washington, kind of like Trump said he would, right? I mean, kind of the same thing, to clean house, right? To drain the swamp, to take on the elites in both parties. That's what we heard from AOC, right? I think, did she have a broom? I don't know if she had a broom, but 2018, by the way, she defeated Joe Crowley. But that was her calling card. If I'm going to be a two-term or a one-term congresswoman, so be it. I'm not going to be a Democratic apologist. I'm not going to adopt the Democratic elitist line. That was what she told us. And many of us believed it. I did. I won't say I just hope to believe it. I did believe it. So let's see what's happened to her.
Because America has before us a rare and precious opportunity. In Kamala Harris, we have a chance to elect a president who is for the middle class because she is from the middle class.
All right, so yes, being from the middle class doesn't mean you're for the middle class. Plenty of presidents have been, quote, from the middle class and governed as elitists. I mean, that's kind of a silly statement. I think Hillary Rodham was pretty much middle class. Bill Clinton was lower middle class, working class. Same with Barack Obama. These were not affluent people. And they weren't for the middle class. They never governed for the middle class. Joe Biden, Joe from Scranton, totally from the middle class. Didn't fight for the middle class. Being from the middle class doesn't mean you are for the middle class. FDR was a patrician. He was an elitist. He was an aristocrat, not a super rich aristocrat, but a pretty darn wealthy one and he was totally for the middle class. Same with his wife, Eleanor Roosevelt, who maybe doesn't get the credit she deserves for some of the positive aspects of that administration. So no, being from, and I'm just checking to make sure, I don't know, being from the middle class doesn't mean you're for the middle class. That's her argument. I would say to you, what has she done? What's the record, AOC? You ain't going to hear it from her. But let's go back. So she's flacking. She's flacking for the Democrat. Bernie, to his credit, when he spoke, and I'm not going to play his quote, he said, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to do the other thing, which was create good jobs. Guarantee health care. Fight for a clean environment. Broker peace. So he got it. I mean, he's still making all kind of excuses and still endorsing somebody that shouldn't be endorsed. But yeah, to his credit, he did go out there to a degree and take on to challenge, right? Challenge power a little bit. Nothing like that from AOC. By the way, this is from
the urgency of.
This is Kulinski. So he's going to interrupt, but you can see him in the bottom right of the screen. But I'm glad because, if you don't believe what I'm saying, maybe you'll kind of agree with him.
Rent checks and groceries and prescriptions. She is as committed to our reproductive and civil rights as she is to taking on corporate greed.
Well, obviously we know her commitment to corporate greed is pretty thin because she fought against corridors. I keep talking about this, but it's really important. When she was Attorney General, whose job, top lawyer for the state of California, you obey the law. You're of an ethical obligation, an ethical duty to obey the law. She was ordered to reduce prison overpopulation in the state of California. And a big reason she wouldn't do it is because the cheap labor provided by firefighters. That's not taking on corporate elites.
She is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home.
That's all right, we'll stop it there. And yeah, Kulinski, I wanted to stop it just before Kulinski went in. But I'm going to replay it and then listen to what Kulinski says. This is AOC flacking for running interference for Kamala Harris and taking any juice that the progressive movement could gain from her insistence, her demands from AOC, if she were to demand better from this pro-genocide administration. She's taken all of that away from us.
Here tonight because America has before us a rare and precious opportunity. In Kamala Harris, we have a chance to elect a president who is for the middle class because she is from the middle class. She understands the urgency of rent checks and groceries and prescriptions. She is as committed to our reproductive and civil rights as she is to taking on corporate greed. And she is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home.
All right, so that's the, a lot that we'd heard before. She is working tirelessly, meaning Harris, to broker a ceasefire and bring the hostages home. Listen to what Kulinski, apologist for the Democrats, a guy who I believe has come right out and endorsed Harris. Listen to what he says.
That's not true. Oh my God. If you want to go up there and make the argument for Kamala Harris, I get it. That makes perfect sense. You're at the DNC. Make that argument. But don't lie. That's just not true.
So he's saying AOC is a liar. This is our hope, right? One of the few. Now, I remember I said to you, I'm depressed, right? Well, this is why I'm depressed. Who is speaking for peace? Who is speaking for the Palestinians? Nobody. Maybe there's one person, we'll hear from her in a little bit, who has some power. Cori Bush, out of office, by the way. She was probably the strongest voice besides Rashid Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. We'll hear from her in a moment. But AOC, that's a betrayal. That's flat out betrayal. Why this is important. The whole Dem Enter movement, the whole idea we're going to take over the Democratic Party, it's a bust. It's a failure. Clearly, the Democratic Party occupied AOC. She didn't occupy the Democrats. They've completely taken control over what she tells you, what she says to you.
The best case you could make for her is that, look, Joe Biden is president. Joe Biden is making all the decisions, and then she just has to sort of go along with what he's doing, even though she may be voicing some concerns behind the scenes, right? That would be fair to say. Now, obviously, you're not going to say that in a speech, but you don't have to say this at all because it's inaccurate. There's no evidence. There's no reason to believe that, they're working tirelessly to get a ceasefire. Again, if Biden wanted a ceasefire, this is on Biden first and foremost. If he wanted a ceasefire, he could pick up the phone and say, I'm cutting off the money, I'm cutting off the weapons, and you're going to stop this today. And then they'd stop it because they have no choice.
All right, so that's 100% accurate. That is correct. There's no tireless working for a ceasefire, clearly. I'm going to delve a lot deeper into that in just a moment. But what's important to note is even a guy who backed AOC, Justice Democrat guy who, was out there, I give him credit, him and Cenk, for putting together Justice Democrats and getting AOC elected, because he kind of did that. And there was hope in the air for change. But even a guy who, like AOC, has drifted right, has become more and more captive to the Democratic Party, even he can't stomach that lie. Oh, she's working tirelessly. She's working tirelessly. It's just not happening. If she were working for a ceasefire, if there were evidence that Kamala Harris was in favor, and he even said the best he can come up with is behind the scenes, maybe. Right? But there's no proof, no evidence of that whatsoever. And her husband spoke to the convention. He said, hey, anti-Semitism is what I care about, not the genocide, not Jews killing tens of thousands of Palestinians. I don't care about that. I'm not going to mention the word, I'm going to say the word Palestine. That's her husband. Okay, you say, well, you can't blame her for what her husband. Well, trust me, they went over the speech. She knew what he was going to say. And she is the one, Harris, the candidate, the nominee, or to become the nominee, she is the one who platformed, centered Sheryl Sandberg's lies about Hamas and sexualized violence while completely silent as to the proven the well-documented, well-established sexualized violence by Israel in many instances. All right, even her fellow squad mate, Omar, I don't call her Omer, it's Omar. I have so much trouble with that. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. This guy I see all the time, I forgot his name. I was so embarrassed. I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry about that. Omar takes swipe at AOC, published last night. AOC for praising Kamala Harris. And so she comes under fire. This is from the Intercept. And they did a nice job here, I thought. So here's the quote from, this isn't from Omar, though. But that was, I just showed you the headline. It's a somewhat puzzling claim, right? The claim that Harris is working tirelessly is a puzzling claim given that Harris's responsibilities don't include foreign policy. Right, well, they don't. I mean, I guess they figured she wasn't quite up for that. She had enough trouble with the border, which is kind of foreign policy, but it's domestic, right? It's people from outside the country, foreigners, if you want to call them that, trying to immigrate into the United States. She had a lot of trouble with that, right? A lot of missteps, said things wrong. Maybe tried to promote a book she wrote, unclear. So she's not given the job of handling this delicate foreign policy stuff. Or is it really even so delicate? Is it delicate to pick up the phone and say, Bibi, it's over. Sorry. Time to time to get out. We're not giving you another bomb, another bullet, no more. Is that really so hard to do? I don't think so, personally. Doesn't require all sorts of balancing tests and, well, we got to worry about this, but there's also that. No, we're done. We're not giving you any, you've killed too many people. We're not helping you. We're not going to help you kill people. We are going to bring you to justice for genocide. We're not going to help you kill more Palestinians. That's not that hard. But even that, I guess they decided Harris wasn't, ready for. So you have a spokesperson saying, "Hey, it's weird to say she's, she's working tirelessly because as Sarah Leah Whitson points out, she's not responsible for that, A. And B, if the administration was really working tirelessly, why isn't there a ceasefire? They've been doing this Israel's been killing Gazans in record numbers, innocent women, children, starving them. Death count is almost certainly a terrible understatement. And there's no ceasefire. So what the hell is AOC talking about? We don't have friends in Congress. They are not people you can trust. Even as far to the left as you may find, they are not on our side. Here's somebody who I give a lot of credit to. And I met Ilhan Omar. I don't have the picture. A little picture of me taking a selfie with her. I was really proud of my selfie. Here's a little tweet and then of what she said. And I'm going to play the video. And then I got another video that I really think kind of sets it all out for you. But let's hear from Omar first, because I said we have no friends. I don't think we have friends, but this is the best and it's good. It's good. At least Ilhan Omar says it's been unconscionable to witness my colleagues in this administration. So is she calling out AOC? Unclear. AOC's not in the administration, but refusing to recognize the genocidal war in Gaza. And then she uses that quote, working tirelessly for ceasefire is not a thing. They should be ashamed of themselves. I agree. Absolutely. Let's play the video, though, because, I just had a quote from it, but I think it's pretty powerful. And really, what Ilhan Omar does here, I believe, is very important because we can talk about numbers and I can say, we can have the quote, oh, she didn't she's not responsible, meaning Harris isn't responsible for foreign policy. So it's not really fair to, for AOC to claim she is. She's not responsible for it. We can talk about that. But in this little clip here, I think Rep. Omar kind of describes just how awful things are and why it's wrong. It's simply morally reprehensible to claim that this administration is doing anything but supporting Israel. Now you see it, click it, yeah.
To witness my colleagues in this administration refusing to recognize the genocidal war that is taking place in Gaza, to not see the mothers who have lost countless children, the babies whose dead bodies are being dug out, to not understand that working tirelessly for a ceasefire is really not a thing, and they should be ashamed of themselves for saying such.
Yeah, so that's all we got there. They should be ashamed of themselves. It's not a thing. And she talks about, the babies being killed, the families, the innocent victims. That's what we have to always be centering. I get back to, I don't know how you can support this administration. I don't know how that can be. All right, let me, before we get to the Al Jazeera clip, which I think is really helpful to understand, I do have this, for the argument that how can you support this administration? How can you vote for Harris, from Biden-Harris? How can we believe that there's any efforts for peace when it hasn't happened? So this is a post. I'm not going to quote the person, but somebody who I respect, who has good ideas, is smart, writes well, the whole 9 yards. And so they say, I believe Biden's a more shrewd negotiator than you give him credit for. If there had been any progress towards a ceasefire, then Iran would have struck Israel. And they didn't. So the commenter is giving Biden credit, saying it's a good thing that Iran hasn't attacked Israel. And there, and that Biden maybe deserves some credit for that, that there's going to be a ceasefire. It looks like, you're saying there's no ceasefire, but look, maybe there's going to be. Maybe Iran knows something that we don't, because they didn't retaliate. And here, to back up that statement, Iran signals promised strike on Israel may not be imminent because they don't want to, according to Iran, they don't want to screw up a possible peace deal, which is what the commenter said. So my thoughts on that. I really don't give Biden credit for any of this. First of all, or Biden-Harris, I should say. First of all, a big reason that Iran may not be responding is because they're afraid of Israel. Israel can go bomb the hell out of Tehran. Israel has more power to destroy Iran at this point, I believe, than Iran to destroy Israel. At least that's the case as long as the U.S. is giving full weaponry support to Israel. And it is. And that's even in the Democratic platform, right, that they've adopted, is we're always going to be there for Israel. So Iran's afraid. They don't want more strikes in Iran. That's part of it. And they're especially afraid because the U.S. has backed Israel to the hilt. There may well be a possibility of a ceasefire, I suppose, although we haven't seen it in over 10 months, and Israel keeps bombing. We saw one for a few weeks, keeps bombing and killing and destroying and starving Gaza. So I don't know where that ceasefire, we keep seeing it's just over the hill, it's just over the next mountain, it's just over the next valley. We get past the next valley, we'll see it. So I'm not buying that, but maybe there's something there to that. I don't know. But ultimately, what the U.S. has done here by somehow, and I accept that it is something the U.S. has done to prevent Iran from retaliating against Israel. Ultimately, what the U.S. government has done, the Biden-Harris administration has done, call it what it is, what they have done is they have insulated Israel from any consequences for mass murder. They have said to Israel, you go ahead, you just keep killing away, you just keep the bloodbath going, you just keep on occupying, send your tanks in, turn all of Gaza into rubble, sow the fields with salt, starve the population. You will face no consequences. You won't face Iranian missiles. You won't face indictments, arrests, nothing. That's what the Biden-Harris administration has done. Now, some may think that's good negotiating. I'm not seeing that. Now, why isn't there, and let me, before we get to one other point, which is, an argument against, a few more things. An argument against Trump, right? Why Trump would be even worse. And he might be. Don't vote for Donald Trump. Never vote for Trump. But don't vote for Harris either. Never vote for Harris either. This is the U.S.'s negotiating position with Israel. Please stop killing Palestinians. Please stop dropping bombs on schools and hospitals. Please don't send your tanks into Gaza City and Rafah and Khan Yunis. Please, 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 pretty please. We don't like it. We don't want you to do it. Israel's response, we need more bombs, bullets, tanks. Okay, they're on their way. Now, please don't use them to kill more Palestinians. Please don't use them to turn Gaza into, we would never do it deliberately. We would never kill civilians on purpose, but you have to understand Hamas is, that's our position, right? Our position is please, pretty please don't use the weapons that we keep giving you, knowing full well that you're going to kill Palestinians with them. Please don't do it. Yeah, I don't think that's a good, effective strategy if your goal is to stop it. Now, here's an argument. I saw this, and maybe this is true. I don't know. Well, actually, before we get to that, no, I really do want to show this video because this is very, very important. Remember, Al Jazeera, the Arab media, has been far more credible, far more reliable, far more believable than our own. So let's go to Al Jazeera for a pretty nice, pretty comprehensive conversation here, pretty good discussion of what's really happening and why you should not believe any talk right now of a possible ceasefire. Why it's just not credible. There we go.
After more than 300 days of Israeli bombardment and more than 40,000 Palestinian deaths, we've been hearing more talk about a possible ceasefire deal to stop the carnage and to release the captives taken by Hamas on October 7.
Israel has now accepted that proposal. I heard that directly from Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday, and we hope and expect that Hamas will do the same.
So the US says it's all up to Hamas, but we've heard that from US officials since talks began back in November. So what's really going on, and who actually wants a ceasefire? Well, let's remember, there was a deal back in November, a week-long truce where Hamas released 110 captives in exchange for Israel releasing 240 Palestinian prisoners. But after that, the war carried on.
We will destroy Hamas.
Israel wanted to eradicate Hamas, not negotiate with it, and Hamas officials wanted all of its political prisoners released. The UN also got involved, but the US vetoed at least 3 ceasefire resolutions, saying a ceasefire would jeopardize ceasefire talks. Then in May, Hamas accepted a 3-phase permanent ceasefire plan proposed by Qatar and Egypt, which would have released all Israeli hostages if Israeli troops left Gaza. Israel called it delusional and 2 days later invaded Rafah. Then there was another proposal, and this one came from Israel, according to the US president. It got the UN's backing. Hamas said it was ready to go ahead. But in public, Israel was reluctant. Then on July 31, Israel assassinated Hamas's chief negotiator, Ismail Haniyeh. And then Netanyahu decided to add more conditions. The Israeli government insists its forces must control Gaza's southern border with Egypt and wants security checkpoints to search Palestinians hoping to return to their homes in the north. Oh, and the Israeli government says it reserves the right to keep attacking Hamas even if there is a ceasefire. So here we are. And that's why critics say the US and Israel are buying time.
He's basically speaking as an advocate for Israel. He's trying to put the onus on Hamas. He's trying to suggest that this is a good deal, and he's downplaying all these new conditions, which are catastrophic for the Palestinians.
And the latest proposal isn't even a permanent ceasefire deal. It's being called a bridging proposal, an agreement that might one day lead to a permanent ceasefire. As for the hostages, Israel has retrieved the bodies of more captives. It's believed about a third of the 100+ captives still in Gaza are already dead, many of them likely killed by Israeli attacks.
All right, so very powerful. I mean, just the facts, right? Just the facts, ma'am. They're Al Jazeera doing a real nice job setting it all out, giving you the timeline. Nothing there that's exaggerated, over the top. Just clear, concise. We have been, for 10+ months, doing everything possible to shield Israel from any accountability for its actions, and have not been pressing for any kind of a ceasefire. So again, how can you vote? How can you vote for Kamala Harris under these circumstances? Now, the argument would be, I think what Kalinsky gave. Well, you know, she's probably saying something behind the scenes. Maybe she's not really on board. Come on. You really believe that? If she were really, if there was any question that Harris was going to, you know, if there was any doubt in the minds of the Democratic donor class that Harris was on board, regardless of what her true feelings are, she was on board. She was with the plan. She wouldn't be the nominee. She wouldn't have been the nominee. The Democratic Party did everything it could to prevent there being any kind of a primary season. Now, I don't think it was because they were confident or they believed that Joe Biden couldn't run, that he was, which proved to be the case, that he was not capable. I don't think that was the rationale. I think the rationale was we like Joe Biden. He does what we want. And also, it is true to give the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic elites and the Democratic establishment some modicum of credit. Yeah, a tough primary slog would have, I believe, reduced the likelihood that Biden would get reelected and help Trump. And I know they don't want that, and okay, I understand that. That seems legitimate to me. That's a legitimate consideration. You know, we're going to stymie democracy. We're going to prevent an all-out battle for the nomination, even though democracy would say we should be able to vigorously contest a sitting president. But we're not going to do that because we think it'll hurt our chances in November. I think that's a legitimate consideration. I don't think they were saying, yeah, Biden's going to have to withdraw. And guess what? We've got this great option, Kamala Harris, who will do exactly what we want if Biden steps down. I don't think that's what they were saying to themselves, but I think it worked out. It was just what they wanted. Right? I mean, there was no real debate about Gaza. There was no real debate about our foreign policy or, frankly, domestic policy. Nothing. So they got somebody that they can claim is progressive, who made a few statements that suggested she had some concerns about the Palestinian people, and there's no challenging her. If she weren't completely acceptable to Democratic corporate elites, she would not be the nominee. That's the bottom line. So is Trump worse? Well, maybe he is. This is from Halitics. Is he delaying the Gaza ceasefire? Reports suggest he may be working with Bibi to prevent a ceasefire, right? To say, well, just like the report was that Nixon worked with the Viet Cong to prevent a ceasefire. Well, maybe that's what Trump is doing. And that's possible. But if that's true, it's all the fault of the Democrats. They're letting it happen. Because for 10 plus months, Biden and Harris have given Netanyahu every single thing he's wanted. Now maybe he can run out the clock. I get that. Yeah, maybe he can run out the clock. But because Americans want a ceasefire, we're bitter, we're angry, we hate seeing the death, the carnage. We're not in a generous mood towards Biden and Harris. But if Biden and Harris had stood up to Israel from the beginning, Biden and Harris had fought to stop Israel from the beginning, and Israel kept the bombardment, kept doing everything in total contravention of what the explicit position was of the Biden-Harris administration, then either A, they would have run out of weapons, or B, the American people would see, well, Israel's doing this on their own. It's not our fault. And if you elect Trump, it'll even be worse. So I don't find this argument to be particularly one that redounds to the benefit of the Democrats. They put Trump in a position, they put Netanyahu in a position where now they maybe can run out the clock. If the Democrats really cared about the Palestinians and really cared about ceasefire, then they would be arguing, hey, you got to elect us because we're going to hold Netanyahu's feet to the fire. Trump's just going to give him everything he wants, and then they will really see the fur fly. That would be an argument, but they don't make that argument because they're not prepared to say no to Netanyahu any more than Trump is. All right, 240, I would like to talk to you, 240-242-5646, 240-242-5646. Just had one more I just want to get this out there because we've gone the hour, which I'm glad about. And, I can be a little bit of a scold and tell people this is what I want you to post. I want to post that. And I get that's frustrating. I don't want insults. I don't want anyone being, when I say insults, I'm not talking about insulting Joe Biden. I'm not talking about insulting Donald Trump. I think sometimes you make jokes about somebody having like the, supposed dick joke that Obama told about Trump. I think you diminish yourself when you do that, when you make it personal and that, make those kind of personal snide comments. I don't think you look good when you do it. But hey, free speech, you want to go after public official, somebody who was a president or a former president, yeah, go ahead, have at it. Don't lie. Right? Don't say that they settled lawsuits for sexual assault on kids when you have no proof of that, when it's been largely debunked, when your only source is somebody who's completely not credible. Yeah, I'm not going to allow that. If you claim that a presidential candidate is drunk in public and there's just fabricated. There's no evidence for that, no eyewitness, nothing like that. No, I'm not going to let you publish that. But yeah, you want to try to be humorous or what have you. I'm not going to fight you on that. I don't want personal insults against people in Halitics. And I won't necessarily block that. I'll block. You make a personal insult about something, I'll block it. But you want to make broad-based, cruel or crude generalizations about the supporters of a particular candidate. I think I'm not going to delete those necessarily, but I think they're very, very counterproductive. So this was a post. I did allow this up there. This is going after Trump supporters. And let me just start. I'm not going to go through the whole, all of it. I'm really going to focus on that, but I wanted the whole meme up there so you could see it. But just that first line right there at the top, Vance is an awkward, pathetic dweeb. Come on. Where does that advance the conversation in any way? It doesn't. It's just, I guess it makes you feel better if you insult him, but I don't know what good that does you, right? If you listen to what I say about Harris, it's always about, when I'm critical of Harris, it's always on her policies. It's always what she's done or what she said, right? I mean, I may have said she's an awkward speaker, but that's true, right? She's shown, that's an issue. But what does pathetic dweeb even mean? It doesn't help us understand or learn or do anything. But whatever, again, Vance, public figure, you want to throw insults at him, go ahead, have at it. But here's where I have an issue. Describing Trump supporters, right, as these sort of loser men, and the exact words are the central tenet of the incel. So that's supposed to be men who are involuntarily celibate. And we know that there has been a rise in the number of blue-collar, mostly men, working-class men, struggling men who can't find mates that women are not interested in marrying. And it goes the other way too, by the way. I don't want to just say it's, look, the idea that we're just supposed to feel bad for men. It's hard for women too, of course. If you have money, you're a man or a woman. If you have certainly looks, it's so much easier. But it's worse now if you're working class, because of how tough life is for working class people. The hope that you'll maybe one day have a house, that you'll be able to own your own home, that's the American dream, has never been more distant for so many millions of American families. And without some kind of economic security, people are loath to marry, right? The idea, well, I'm going to marry you and have children with you, kind of not something you're going to do if you're afraid you might become homeless, right? We've even seen the birth rate keeps dropping. So this is a reality for millions of Americans. And yes, it is one that is very upsetting for many American men. And so the meme continues, life is not a battle between the virgin and the Chad. I don't know, is it Chad? I always like a hanging little piece from a voting paper ballot, but I guess it's like a stud, right? Is that supposed to be? Life is not a battle between the virgin and the Chad. It's a battle between people who are confident who they are and who they aren't. Okay, life is right now in America is a battle between the rich, the billionaire class, their hangers-on, and everybody else. That's really what it is. That's who's the battle. The battle isn't between good-looking, confident people and unattractive, unconfident or whatever met people. I mean, it's true. If you have confidence, you're probably going to be more successful. But a lot of people don't have confidence because why would they be confident? They didn't get a great education. They can't afford it. They can't, if they have kids, they can't help. There's not much they can do for them. They don't have good hope for health care. Family members may have been fighting several tours of duty in an endless war, came back finally with PTSD, permanent injuries, mental health problems. Their environment has become steadily less salubrious. That's the reality. It's not just in people's heads. So when you attack, when you insult, when you mock, when you diminish people because they don't support your candidate, you make it so much harder or impossible, right, to build a movement. It's one thing if you criticize people because they're elite, because they live better, they have more, and they don't give a crap. But when you mock someone who's not doing well, who may be doing worse than you are, call them a knuckle dragger, an incel, right? That's an insult, right? You're involuntary celibate because you can't get a woman, right? Isn't that what that clearly? That doesn't help. That makes things worse. So I implore people, if you really, really want to make things better, which to me means everyone has enough. Everyone has health care. Everyone has enough to eat. Everyone has a safe, secure place to stay, to live. They have a job that's commensurate with their talents, their skill level, and the ability to rise in that job. If that's your goal, if that's what you want, let's build a movement together. Let's not alienate people who would benefit, who would be good, allies in that movement. Even if they have some views you don't agree with, even if they've said things you think are wrong-headed. Well, talk to them about it. Say, hey, I think what you just said there, it's racist, it's sexist, it's hurtful. Let's work together so we can all have enough. All right. Appreciate your taking time to watch Halitics, to be one of my viewers, my followers, whatever you want to call it. I guess subscribers. I don't think followers is a good word. I don't like that word. Subscribers. That'd be awesome. If you're not already, to click like, click subscribe. And yeah, join the Halitics. And also, finally, I do hope, I truly hope you will, if you're in the area and you can, that I'll see you today. See you this afternoon, 6 o'clock, Monroe Park, DC. Link is in the show description. Tomorrow's a free-for-all.